Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. It's the Buddy Martin Show. It's the Tuesday night, and it's a happy, sad occasion for Gator fans. What a tremendous ride it was for 3 or 4 days. And in context tonight, I'd like my guys, a panel, a group, my buds, to kind of tell me how they thought about it, because sometimes you can have impactful years on programs and on schools without winning a championship. Such was the case this year with Skylar Wallace and these women on the Gator softball team who brought us such great joy. Unfortunately, it ended on the wrong end tonight for them, and we'll talk about that. But what is game? Well, it's remembered, and how did you feel about it? Get your thoughts tonight on the Buddy Martin Show. Stay tuned. Coming up next, David Whitley, the award-winning columnist, will give us his thoughts and make us laugh and all that good stuff. It's the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors to come join us.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to Buddy Martin Show. We're live here in Northwest Florida. We have our far-flung correspondents who will be joining us in just a moment. Not the least of one who's flung in Gainesville. And I'm sure watched, as I did, just about all of what happened to this Gator softball team and Gator baseball team in recent days. I told Shane Matthews on his show this morning, I don't know the last time I've watched so much television with such intensity as I have since last Friday. And part of it was trying to find where the game was going to be when they got weathered out. But anyway, it was quite a couple of days. There were some accomplishments that people will talk about for a long time, maybe forever. The baseball team is still playing and has a chance to get to the World Series and win it. And the softball team is not a sad occasion for many tonight, especially if you watch the post-game interviews and people like Skylar Wallace saying such tremendous things about the program, how transformative it was in her life, how one of the greatest decisions she ever made in her life was to go to the University of Florida, how she played so well and led that team. And she was bawling her eyes out. She said it not to be over dramatic here, but it was very touching. I don't know, maybe I'm just an old sapsucker that falls for that kind of stuff, but I was very impressed with this team and with this young people. And I wish I'd have really seen her play more. I wish I'd got to know Skylar Wallace. I think she's a special person. And I would imagine David Whitley feels the same way. Maybe he did. Hi, David.
Hello, old sapsucker.
Well, you watched it?
I watched the end. Yeah, I was having it to work for most of it, but I was keeping tabs. And you never feel comfortable against a team like Oklahoma, even though they got off early. You just figure, well, they're not playing Oklahoma Baptist here.
Yeah,
This is a team that is fully capable of looking at a scoreboard and saying, all right, we're not going to panic. We're going to get it together. And the pitcher settled in, and it was it's one of those things that I was thinking, when it comes to these sports, only one team ends with a win. Everybody else, their season ends with a loss in these things. It's not like football where you go to a bowl game and people, okay, we lost, but half the teams that go to, they're going to win and end the season on an up note. Nobody ends on the up note except the team that wins it all. And everybody else just has to, there's going to be a lot of disappointment for sort of like, the further you go, the more disappointing it gets. Like, would it have been, it'd have been less disappointing had they been knocked out in two. I mean, you'd been upset and more mad. But they win, they keep going, and then when they beat Oklahoma yesterday, you go, man, and it's just dangling out there, and you just do it, just one more, and then when it's taken away, it hurts all the more if you're a fan. And that's the nature of these NCAA tournaments. Everybody goes home, at least in their minds at first a loser, and it just takes time for that to settle in. And you look at the long-term benefits and what came out of it, stuff like that. But right now it's just heartbreak time.
Yeah, all that's true. On the other flip side of that coin, I'm going to try to see if I can find a little silver lining in this tonight, because I see a couple other things that might be impactful to the program and the players and us as fans. When you are not expected to win the baseball team and you do, it's even sweeter. Now, David, you and I come from an era, at least I do, when winning over half your games was a successful season. SEC championships were far in thought. So when the teams took the field most of the time, or a good part of the time, in the SEC play, Florida was the underdog. If you win some of those games and you beat some of those teams like Georgia or whatever, get to pull off an upset like the '63 team did, or in Alabama beat Bear Bryant. That's unusual. It's really a hallmark of the program, and it's so sweet when it does happen. On the other side, when you have the expectations and you expect to win and don't, it's very defeating and very unfortunately debilitating in that regard. I saw some. I don't know. I watched a lot of this and I got caught up on it, and I really loved a couple of things about the softball team, in particularly. And kudos, by the way, to the baseball team and what Sully did with that team to get them where they are now. Amazing. But I saw these women. Do you realize that that Florida's pitcher, Rothrock, threw 3 straight full innings, 7 games? I mean,
Yeah.
and guys go out there and say, "Oh, I got to go. I got pitched 4 innings. I can't do this in baseball." I get it. It's a different motion, but I mean, she was throwing it like in her 125th pitch or something tonight, and she kept it right in, kept them in there until the home run, which was the walk off in the 8th inning, sent the Gators down to defeat. But I mean, she and Skylar Wallace, who played, she took a shot from the woman who played, the biggest woman who played on the Alabama team, on the OU team. They collided at second base, and the woman, whose name was Barbara, I believe, outweighed her by 50, 60 pounds. They had a head-on collision, and here's Skylar Wallace trying to hold the ball. Got up and played. I mean, I just saw a lot of heart. And here's the main thing I want to say, and I want you to think about this and delve into your knowledge of sports, which is considerable. And think, in a time where we're all complaining about how nobody cares about the team concept. Me, my, NIL deals, I want this. They say, we got teams declining invitations to go to play bowl games. All the things that happened, the ugly side of college football the last couple of years. We talk about that, how it's destroying the game. Here is the definitive picture of what team looks like. This is a team. They are tight-knit, well-tight. They're sisterhood. You look at it and how they react in the dugouts. They give you all the good things about sports. I salute that. And I say, it's why I said, although it's a little bit, I know, dramatized, whatever. The fact is, when a special team, gives you all it's got, and it's not enough, and then they say goodbye, they take a little piece of our hearts with them. That's why we'll never forget Skylar Wallace and her teammates and how they played. As I said, when you look up the definition of the word team, they be looking at the picture of this at Florida, because they were sensational. My congratulations to Tim Walton, Skylar Wallace, and all those women who fell just really a one run short of making it all the way to the finals. It was a tremendous effort, and a great team concept.
You know, buddy, if I didn't know better, I would say you've labeled them elite at this point, haven't you?
Well, they are now. Yeah, I would. And
Yeah,
I didn't do that earlier, as you know. That was a
yeah.
big thing
Oh,
on
yeah,
me.
we've gotten a lot of mileage out of that, but, as we
Yeah, it's
talked
all right.
about last
I'm good
week,
with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
at
would
the
go back.
time,
By the way, I would do it again the same way if
yeah.
I were
Well, I was
asked the
gonna say,
question when I did.
at the time, they weren't elite. I think Tim Walton would say it. I mean, they had the potential to be elite,
Yeah.
but they weren't playing elite. They were playing okay, good. But if you'd have said 2 months ago, this is a Final Four team, you go, I don't know. But now, they got it together, and this will be remembered as a team that got elite. And yeah, sometimes when you lose, you're right. If you're a favorite to win it, you look back and go, man, there's a sense of emptiness about it. I don't think there's, you're disappointed, but I mean, no one can be upset with how this team went about its business. And that was the whole thing. It is funny when you mention bowl games, how, well, who's not here, and who's moved on. That does hang over everything now, but that wasn't even a thought the last week when you saw
That's right.
those women go out there and do their thing. It was became appointment TV viewing for any Florida fan. Now,
It
you didn't have
did.
to be a softball fan, but you just be you can be sort of caught up in what they were doing, especially. I mean, beating Oklahoma. You said what? Oklahoma hadn't lost an NCAA game in won 20 in a row.
Yeah, and not only that, they'd done that, but they'd also, think of all the other stats. Patty Gasso was 52-0 against former assistants, and on and on and on and on. And and I want to get back to the word elite when you talk about it, and we joke about it, but it's not just elite because they won. It's elite on the way they conduct themselves, the effort, the class, and the dignity they had, the effort they put forth, the bond they had as players. All those things make them elite, not just if they won. The fact that they won was great too. So yeah, I go back. It's a lot of years of special teams I saw play in football that didn't win anything except a few games. And the players I got to know and knew who they were, and they were quality people. They gave some maximum effort. They had pulled off some wins, and they were not elite in regard to their record, but they were elite as people. They were elite as the team. That's what I mean. So I know I'm probably stretching a little bit, but you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and when you look at, you mentioned Rothrock, she was, even though she's had a great year and a freshman, all that, you just wondered, man, how often can you trot her out there? I mean,
Really? I
and
mean, talk about the Iron Man, the Iron Woman
yeah,
named Rothrock. What a name.
yeah, oh yeah, that's a great name. That's a name right out of Central Casting when you go
Yeah,
with Rothrock.
it is. Yeah.
And and then I was really thinking today that she might get hammered just because they had seen her
Yeah, I did
yesterday,
too. I kept waiting for them to say, "Well, she did gave her best effort,"
right?
and then but
Yeah,
she just kept
yeah.
hanging in there.
Yeah, and even though it is a different thing. I mean, obviously, baseball and softball are different, but there's got to be some fatigue factor built in there. I mean, with the arm, and that you thought that might be one of their weaknesses going in is just for all the strength of this team, just the lack of pitching depth. It's either Rothrock or Ava Browne, and then nothing, which is okay, but. You can see these other teams, they have more depth and they can go to the bullpen more and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, Walton will be addressing that in the offseason. But, I mean, you've certainly found a rock on the pitching mound for the next 3 years. If she sticks around that long. I don't guess you're going to turn pro and then, but, I mean, you never know with these days what'll happen. But man, you've got your number one starter set, for now. And so, I mean, she answered pretty much every question anybody might still have of her.
She did.
Last week we were thinking, you don't know how, even though she's been their horse all year, it's a whole different thing when you're doing it out in Oklahoma City. When it's got to be done. And she certainly checked, every box that needed to be checked.
Really have the player in that place again with all that team, the crowd against you. It was really wonderful. One of the things I loved seeing was how the event staff goes and retrieves the home run balls and take them to the parents. I thought that was awesome. That was really a nice little touch there. So anyway, at a time when we center on greed all the time, talk about what's wrong with these programs and these stupid IL deals, all that. We talk about that. To have this is refreshing to me, David, to see this happen. And I guess that's why I was struck by it. I thought, man, I was finding myself regretful for not having been out there more and covered the softball team, but I don't cover much softball. I got to watch them as a fan and watch how they represented and what they did. And I was so impressed with these young women. I just can't tell you. They were wonderful.
It's always a bit of an eye opener. If you don't cover the women's sports, especially in college, much, and then you go out there and you just watch it, there's so much more enthusiasm among the. I mean, I don't care what sport it is. I guess I don't know if it's a feminine thing or it's just a cultural thing with women's sports, but you see it in volleyball, in softball,
gymnastics,
and you know that even if they mess and certain gymnastics, no matter what they do after the performance, everybody runs up and high fives and hugs.
Yeah,
you know, and I mean, you just don't see that in male sports.
Yeah, the only thing you see when guys miss free throws and they get their hands shook. That makes me want to throw up. That's another story.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. And can you see the Gator players in the dugout, baseball players doing cheers and doing chants and all that stuff? Imagine that.
Yeah.
What the hell built like so. But
it's a miniature emotion. You know, we're more stoic. Yeah. You do see the backward hat and guys get the rally caps, but if guys went out there and acted like women, you know, it would just be shocking. I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong or
be a lot more entertaining than it is now. That's for sure.
Yeah. But you know, but if you want, about that baseball team, I mean, now it's you know, they're playing with house money at this point. I mean, they should feel no pressure whatsoever because it's fun. I was just glancing around a few minutes ago and saw a news story it's out of Nebraska. I was like, Nebraska? Oh, they played Nebraska. It was a 74-year-old woman who at the old folks' home, they declared her dead for natural causes and signed the death certificate and everything. She was at the funeral home for 2 hours, and someone looked over and they noticed she was breathing. And I was thinking, that's the Gator baseball. I mean, they were declared dead.
Yeah.
And they got.
I thought you were going to tell me she came back to life during the baseball game or something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she wasn't a Cornhusker fan because what they did to her might have been the coup de grace. They lost to Florida. But now it's just everything that you were waiting on for the last 4 months suddenly has all happened in the last week. I mean, you know, if I got to be honest with you, I couldn't have picked Ashton Wilson out of a police lineup.
Yeah, really.
3 days ago.
You'd only been around there. He hadn't played until 6 games ago, and he was the MVP of the regional.
Yeah, he's Joe DiMaggio out there, and you know, like Frank Clemente, you know, and I was like, who are, and you know, I mean, Sully knew they were there, that they had ability, but it just seemed like they were never going to put it together. And then, you know, Fisher Jameson, who, you know, hadn't, you know, has just been, you know, a mystery all year, gets out, you know, 10 guys in a row, and boom, you know, it just.
Brandon Neely is the guy that just blew me away.
Right.
I mean, what a game this guy pitched. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't come in until the 4th inning, and then he struck out 11, shut the door on these guys, and won that game. And that was that's one of the most impressive games I've seen pitched at Florida in a long time. And he didn't even start.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm thinking, man, who else has Sully got down there? And Sully said this before, in order to have a chance to win in postseason, you have to have these guys come out of nowhere. Well, we've seen that happen for sure. It's amazing things. So you're right. You're right. So, all right. So here's the deal. There's a lot of people want to say things. Got comments about the team. I've got some of the better tweets about that. People are wanting to talk about the NIL deal going through for high schools. I'm not really prepared to talk about that because I don't know much about it. I know
Well, I
there's
got to tell you, buddy, I was assigned to go there this month, so I spent 3 hours in the FHSAA meeting.
all right.
So,
All right. Well, then you can be the one to explain it to us because David
yeah,
Baldwin's upset about it. So they just ruined the
yeah.
sport, and Buck Wade agrees. But I mean, the bottom line is that yeah, I've heard about it. I don't know much about it. I'll get David to educate me, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But today, I want to celebrate spirit. I wrote some notes to myself, like nothing great, but Skylar goes out with class and dignity, fire in her spirit, love and appreciation in her heart. Did you see her quote? The greatest decision I ever made in my life was to come to the University of Florida and be a Gator. I mean,
Hmm.
she's pouring love out. And somebody
Yeah.
else said that most runs scored in the history of college softball, one of the best months the sport has ever seen, hitting 575 in May, help us get to 2 World Series and a 3-time All-American. Just some wonderful things. And somebody wrote a driving force, a leader, a legend. So this team, and particularly Skylar, really really it touched a lot of hearts. We'll talk about some more in just a minute, including what Shane Matthews has a different take on things. And I love what Scott Carter said too. I'll tell you about that in our tweets. Let me tell you first right now, before we get to Rob Browne just around the corner with David Whitley. He's really funny and smart, brilliant columnist. He's going to make us laugh and just entertain the heck out of us this next 30 minutes. So I want to tell you about my friends at Meldon Law. I talked to Jeffrey today. I'm going to try to get to see him soon. Get a trip back to Ocala here in a couple of days. And just so I have gratitude for him as both a sponsor and a friend and the things that he does in the community. He's always looking to do better and to help people. And he's done that a lot. And he continues to do it. And they do practice law. And once you know, they have some locations you may not know about. They open a new office in Williston now. Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City. And they're known because they like to say they don't back down. If you have any kind of litigation pending out there and the attorney is not helping you along and they don't like what's coming back to you, they'll give you a free review at Meldon Law. If you like to have a second opinion, go online, look up their number, Meldon Law, and make an appointment. Like they say, you can get the chance to talk to a Meldon and not somebody who just sort of rolled down on the bus from Tampa or something. So check them out, Meldon Law. They won't back down. Okay, I'm gonna go get Rob Browne, and I'm gonna tell you what. My favorite comment was Scott Carter. Is it too late to rescind the Sooners' entry to the SEC?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Imagine that, having
Yeah.
that league together. And I got some things to talk about there too, because what we have now, we have a configuration of some of the best teams ever played football in one league, and now exponentially the schedule gets harder and harder and harder. And if you look at the strength of schedule list put out by FPI now, about all of them are SEC teams. And then conversely, I have the list of the easiest schedules from the FPI tonight. We'll talk about that. But nonetheless, yeah, is it too late to rescind the entry of the SEC? Well, I don't know. What do you think, Rob Browne? Is it too late to do that? Got to get your no ears. I'm not hearing you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I watched Tim Walton. I really like him, and I heard y'all's comments. I've been watching the show. I was listening to someone talking to me while I was listening to y'all. Right on spot. Those Gators, they love the University of Florida. They love their team, their teammates. That's what it's all about. And those girls were broken down into tiers. I've got 2 boys. I got 2 girls, 3 Auburns and 1 Alabama. I still love the Alabama one just as much. She's still a good person. But, man, watching these Gator girls, I love it. And, by the way, I had on SEC Network today when I was in and out from my office watching the track and field complex at the University of Florida. Good God. That is spectacular. Florida's a freak show in terms of talent and everything. Again, I'm dropping in from outer space. 273 SEC championships. 273. The closest is Georgia, about 112 below that. Watching the women I know this is crazy, but the women are making us love the college game more than the men right now.
That's exactly what my point was earlier today, is that
They
we were
are.
complaining about what's happening in college sports with men, and yet the women are doing the opposite. We're learning
Yeah.
to love the college game through them. And
Yeah.
there's something to be learned from that.
Yeah, that locker room. I mean, David, you get to talk to him. Just watching that, and man, I saw something today with John Cohen, Auburn's AD, and Greg Byrne, Alabama's AD, and Greg Byrne said he was flying back from Oklahoma City where Alabama lost, out there in the World Series, got delayed for weather and stuff, and they were talking about what we spend on sports, and they said, football pretty much pays for everything. Basketball is at a profit. And of the other 19 sports we have here at Alabama, they don't really turn a profit. But the impact on the lives of those student athletes and those other 19 sports, just like football and basketball, as my kids have come up with this word, y'all probably heard it, ginormous. It's lifelong. And everybody that we ever worked with who was a student athlete in college, whether they were a starter or a scout team guy, Ben Troop says it best. When he goes back to Florida, he spends the most time with the scout team guys, and he says, y'all made me who I am every single day. This is great. Y'all were on fire that first 21.
Now, I'm going to bring this topic up. I said I was going to, since David's here. We were on your show today earlier of talking about, well, you bring it up. What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about earlier today how much we love college football. And also you talked about those 9 of the 10 strongest college football schedules in America are SEC schools. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, there's nowhere to hide. Being in the SEC is like going to a bar and you've had a few road sodas and you're feeling pretty tough. You look to your left, there's a SEAL. To your right, there's a Ranger, 3rd Ranger Battalion, Fort Benning. Over there's Delta. There's Air Force, Commando, Marine Recon, Navy SEAL. Who are you going to fight? Now you're bringing in Oklahoma and you're bringing in Texas. So you're bringing in another level. But I believe David, you nailed it last week. I've quoted you and I've given you credit always do that. I said David Whitley, great writer for the Gainesville Sun on the Buddy Martin Show. It's pretty much idiot-proof college football and what we love. But, man, this women's college World Series is, to me, the biggest story in college athletics right now. It supersedes what's going on in professional sports because these girls aren't all about themselves and the money. They actually love their team and their teammates, and in this case, the University of Florida, and that's refreshing. I love seeing it.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a biblical thing, something about money being the root of all evil. I guess it's the love of money, technically. That's
what it is.
Love of money, yeah.
And you mentioned, the 2 sports that are driving this craziness are football and basketball because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
And when you have that much money, and that big of a fight, there's going to be a lot of people trying to reach in and grab some. And it's going to be messy. It's tempting to think, well, if college softball generated 150 million a year, that they would. I suspect a lot of these things would be in play if it did, but they're not. And in a way, it's good because you don't get this stuff, and it's bad because when you think about what's gone on the last couple of weeks about how are they going to start paying $20 million a year? They're going to have to be some cutbacks. And one thing you keep hearing is, well, are we going to have to lose some sports to make up for it? And man, that will really alter the college experience overall. And I mean, that's one thing you just really hate to see.
That's the exact opposite of what they do in that regard, because we've seen the real values are not there. I mean, this thing, it can't all be about deals and NIL stuff. And there's going to be, and by the way, conversely, on that schedule we talked about, and I told you this today, Rob, the sad part about it is we complain, we talk about Dion, we talk about these deals, fans are getting sick of it. but they just come back like lemmings. The fans never go away. Like David said, they're idiot proof. The game is because they'll complain and whine and say this, and they can't get these players. But let them win a few games, and they're right back out there in the front row, man, ready to go. And God bless them for being that way, because you need some resilience in your fan base. But getting to the point of winning and business deals, I asked last night if my guys could pick how many of the top 10 toughest schedules you could pick. And if you guys want to go, I'll just say they're just about all SEC or going to be SEC. Rob, you want to take a shot at who the top 10 are?
Like Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Auburn, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Texas.
Ole Miss and Arkansas are not in there, but David, go ahead. You got some?
I'm just trying to think of any of the non-SEC ones that might have.
Well, there's only one. It's Georgia Tech, by the way. That's it. So don't waste your time. But how many?
If you're Georgia Tech, every season is a challenging schedule.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's 9 teams in there from the SEC.
Yeah.
Florida being number 1, Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, which will be Tennessee, Georgia Tech, not, and Texas will be. So that's it. And by the way, Vanderbilt is 14th, South Carolina is 17th, etc. So so we know the schedules are hard, which means if you're in the SEC, you're going to have one of the hardest schedules. Because it's a hard place to play. Now, flip the coin over and say, okay, what about the easiest schedules? Okay, where might they reside? How many could you go, and how many SEC teams do you think are in the top 25? Rob,
easy.
How many SEC teams?
I would say LSU is in there.
Nope.
It's hard. I mean, that's in the interest of not sounding like a complete imbecile, I'm not going to say anything else and perjure myself.
That's all right.
I'll let somebody else try.
David, you want to try? How many SEC teams are in
can
the
I
top
throw out
25 easiest schedules?
I don't know, Mississippi State?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't. In the SEC, you say in the top or one of the easiest 25 schedules.
Which one? Let me save you some time. None.
Yeah. No,
all right,
okay.
Not one SEC team in the top 25 easiest, and of course 9 of the first 10, and probably something like 12 out of the first 17, and whatever. So what that tells you? Well, obviously the hardest football is made. So you're going to have teams knocking teams off, and you're going to have the young having them eating their young, and it's going to be hard to go clean and to be able to say, yeah, well, look, this is this team is really good. They may have a brutal schedule like Florida does, what I call the Bataan Death March in the back half of the season. They may have these quirks and stuff. So, and the other thing about the SEC is, I've said this 100 years, when you play against this caliber of football, where they have the slobber knockers, they used to call them, in the defense offensive line, and you get pounded for 11, 12 straight weeks, there's a residual impact that beats up your football team. And if you're not physically fit, and you could be a wreck by the time you get to game 8 or 9. So there's that, right? So there's a lot of unintended consequences yet to be seen of this. But we're all saying it because we want to see these good games. And by the way, we're not seeing all the directional schools so much anymore. And even Georgia's got a tough schedule. They got, I think UMass is their one easy game. So we don't know how this is going to impact it. But like they say, be careful what you ask for, Rob.
Well, Georgia's got Clemson August 31st, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta. Then they got to play at Alabama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss. And by the way, did y'all see on the Paul Feinbaum show this afternoon, Max Chadwick, Pro Football Focus, had the Gator quarterback room as the 7th best in the country. He said Graham Mertz will be your starter. He said DJ Lagway will play. He said, but starting next year, if I'm Florida, again, deep discount value money manager, I mean, that's strong. Mertz and Lagway together. I mean, David, do you think they'll be on the field a lot together this year? And they say, I hate that term, but I'm going to use it. Packages for Lagway. I mean, if he's good enough, it's not a package. It's just because he's good enough.
You don't mean playing on the same play together. You mean
No. It's just playing in the same games.
All right, David.
Although the way Lagway looked on the open field, maybe put him at running back once or twice. But
put his
huge, isn't he?
That'd be good.
How much does he weigh?
Well, they say I think he's listed at 245.
Was he that light? I thought it might be his gain weight, but I thought 225. But I'm not sure. Really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No, but he's a hoss, as they say.
He is a hoss. You're exactly right. It's a good term. Yeah. So
Lagway's definitely going to get a lot of snaps. But as Napier said, last time he had a present, he says, the only downside about that is you're taking number 15 off the field, which is Mertz, and he's really high on Mertz. So it's a win-win really. And I know they're sleeping a lot better knowing that they have Lagway, even though he's not. He's still a true freshman. He doesn't have command of the playbook at all, but they certainly feel a lot better about their backup QB position this year than they have since Napier's been here. I mean, 2 years ago, they were just, they wanted to wrap Anthony Richardson in bubble wrap. They didn't let him do it because they knew after him it was, it was sayonara. They'll.
Speaking of, by the way, Anthony Richardson, I saw this report today. And I'm going to find it. The latest update on Anthony Richardson. We've kind of forgotten about him, the freak, and what we thought he'd bring to Florida football. We thought he might bring us a championship here. The fact is, he says he now weighs 255 pounds and runs a 4.43 40. Holy mackerel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
wow.
God.
Yeah, I'm sure he can still, dunk it with his teeth, the basketball too.
No doubt.
He's just, as you said, freak is the only word, and it's going to be fun watching what happens. Just with Indy and everything like that. But you're talking about the tough schedule and all that. One thing that we got to remember, because we're so conditioned to think, man, you lose one SEC game, you're in trouble. You lose two, you're dead. But with the 12-team playoff. There's no, I can see a 3-loss SEC team getting in there.
You can, and there will be, for sure.
Yeah. So even though, it's tough. I mean, it's not the doom and gloom that it used to be. That's one of those mental adjustments we're going to have to make in this new era of the playoff. Is that you're not out of it until you can, if you're Georgia or LSU or somebody who's should be in the top 10, and you're going to have a great strength of schedule. And if you just, you can see a 2-loss team getting in there, and there'll be the caterwauling among it, said that it's rigged to the SEC, and Greg Sankey has him under his, has the committee under his spell. And I think what has him under the spell is just the strength of schedule. And, that doesn't lie.
It just means more. All right, so let me tell you about the sponsor, and I've got Loren Meadows, Coach Meadows, standing by somewhere. I hear he's in the neighborhood. Haven't seen him much lately. I did get a picture of him from Freddie Weeby down at Spurrier's with two other dudes. Looks like Loren was dressed up for a wedding of some kind. Anyway, we'll get Loren on here. And first, let me tell you about our sponsors and TitanMRI.com. You love it when businesses accommodate their customers. And boy, Titan MRI does that. They have that new facility now cooking really good up there in Gainesville, serving North Central Florida, Ocala. And it's easy to get to. They'll make you a time. If you can't get there at regular business hours, they will give you a chance to come get your MRI at night or the weekend, whatever it is to accommodate you. That's part of their philosophy, making it a positive experience going to get your MRI. If you don't have insurance, they'll take cash or card. So Go online, check them out, TitanMR.com, and find out why it doesn't have to be as painful and agonizing and all the things you do when you go to get MRI, because Titan MRI wants to make it a pleasant experience for you. TitanMRI.com. Let's say good evening to Coach Meadows once again. And how are you, Loren?
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Hey,
Evening.
good. Good.
That picture was from my day job. We had an event at Spurrier's, and Coach came by and hollered at us. So turned out pretty good.
Hey, Loren, we know you're a celebrity now. You don't have to rub it in, okay? we know you get all the special attention and all that for what the heck is. But hey, listen, I'm going to give you a chance to chime in. Softball team you followed quite a bit, and I know you went to a lot of games. You just go to sit in the stands and enjoy the team. I gave my soliloquy earlier in the day saying, man, what an honor and pleasure to see a team playing like a team. And you hate to see them go, especially Skylar and that bunch. They were such great athletes who gave everything they had, and they understood the concept of team, and they were close in. You wish you could bottle that and give it to other teams. It's a sad day to see them go out the door, but what a way to go. They really went out with style, didn't they, Loren?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about a team that was picked to finish 8th in the SEC going into the season, and it was the first time that Tim Walton literally had no pitchers returning. So, I mean, just that in itself, and then you're talking about 4 freshmen starting. You had a converted shortstop at second base, and Mia Williams. You had a converted catcher with Eric Kaulowski at third base. So just fitting those pieces in, as well as working Chelsea Dobbins and Francesca Anea into the coaching staff. I mean, it really didn't seem like a team, that would make it basically to finish third in the country. So, for them to be where they are in the last week of the College World Series, I mean, is amazing. And they're going to be a good team next year, too. But I really think if you look at what they had returning, even though they did have the SEC Player of the Year and Skylar Wallace returning, but they didn't know what they were going to get out of Jossie Erickson and Corby Otis when they transferred in, how they were going to adjust to the SEC, and they pretty much became the one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so just the job that Walton was able to do, I think is to be applauded. I'm actually going to write something about that.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I think I've got. I thought I heard you say you're going to write. Is this on?
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, what is that again?
I'm gonna pin a couple things here.
Oh, I remember you used to write all the time. I remember you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
shout out to our buddy Franz Beard, by the way. Who's under the weather. He's kind of got a banged up arm and hasn't been able to write. So if you haven't seen his articles, it's not taking vacation. He's really dislocated his arm. He's got a sling, or it's called something else now because they don't call them slings anymore. And he's in a lot of pain, but we're hopeful he's going to be back and be good as brand new soon. So thinking about you out there, France. Okay. Let's go back to the drawing board here a second. What was the highlight for you? Let's start in reverse order, David. Softball or baseball, what you saw, what player, what moment was your favorite and what you saw in the last 4 or 5 days, David?
Well, just for sheer eye-popping, that laser that Caglione hit at 121 miles an hour exit speed, I think, if that would have hit somebody,
taking your head off.
It would have been like hit by a howitzer. It was just, you see it and you just go, man. That
you don't see it, you just feel it.
Yeah, it was gone. It literally got out of the park in about 0.2 seconds. So just from sheer, that was it. But you can't say you're surprised by that. I mean, that's just another day at the office almost for him. But actually, my best moment in the last 2 weeks was I happened to show up late for one of the super regional games. I was walking. There's a sort of a secret place you can park beyond center field and sort of cut through. And I was cut through right when a Gator hit a home run, and I didn't know, one bounce and it hit me, and I fielded it, the home run ball.
No, get out of here.
I was just sending it on by kids and give me. Of course, I kept it. No, I'm just kidding. I gave it to some kids. So that was my personal first home run ball I've ever gotten.
Wow.
But just the whole thing. That it's hard to put it on because there's such the Cinderella aspect of the baseball team at this point. And that's something you can still, to think that next week we'll be sitting here talking that the baseball team is in the College World Series. I mean,
really.
Talk about a conversation nobody thought they'd be having.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of conversations about that baseball team and a lot of criticism of Sully, I think, which people are taking back now. And look, it was a tough year for Sully. Let's be honest about it. It really was. Rob, I know you didn't follow the Gators as closely as we did, but there were some moments in there along the way you might have picked up on. One of the things you mentioned, the home run ball. I love what they did at the regional, when they hit a home run ball there in Norman. The event goes, and staff gets the ball, retrieves it, and brings it to the parents in the stands. That was a nice touch.
Well, the thing that I love about the SEC men's baseball tournaments and the regionals up to this point is just how unpredictable it is. You had 11 and you've got 5 left to go to these super regionals. But I guess the story to me from where I am is Arkansas. They've won more games the last 6 or 7 years than any Division I baseball program. Yet they were 0 for nothing in Hoover, and don't tell me Hoover doesn't matter. That listless play carried when they got beat on a Sunday morning at home by Southeast Missouri, and I guess in Vanderbilt. What's happening to Vanderbilt? I mean, this is a strong league.
Yeah, they sure
11 schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then LSU goes out, but that LSU, they went down in 10 innings, 4-3 last night. But I think this is the 12th super regional for Florida.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, and Florida last year they were there. They'll get there again this year. I think they will go up there and take care of business at Clemson because somebody said. You or David said it earlier. These guys have got to come out of nowhere at this time of year.
Well, that's
some of these guys'
philosophy. To win, you have to have these guys show up and be individual Cinderellas, which is what they had going on with Ashton Wilson.
Yeah. Big dogs walk late. If you got a big dog, you're usually gonna walk them late at night. That's an old Pat Dye saying, talking about big recruits. He goes, "Big dogs walk late, folks, and we'll see what happens come tomorrow morning."
Right? Speaking of big dogs, I have a list in front of me of the odds of the remaining teams. I think it's updated as who's favored and what have you. Would you like me to give you one? Florida, by the way, is 25-1, which is not bad considering where they were. But the favorite team is Tennessee, which, by the way, all of a sudden come the darling and Texas A&M is second. I question that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so any thoughts about who you think ought to take it all? You guys have any picks on this? Loren, you have any?
Nah, I mean, I don't follow the baseball as close. I mean, obviously Tennessee's been playing pretty hot last couple of weeks, so I guess if I was a betting man, I'd probably go chalk. But I think it'll be somebody come out of nowhere. But I agree with Rob. I would not be surprised if the Gators make the trip to Omaha for sure. So I mean, I think they could go up there, definitely take 2 out of 3 from Clemson, and it's kind of cool, buddy, like you mentioned, that they go and get the home run ball that they give to the parents. And kind of a fun fact. Mm-hmm. So Katie Kistler hit the first home run in that 1-0 game against Oklahoma State. They never found the ball. So they had to.
David Whitley, did you get that ball? Maybe that's one he got.
So they had to go and grab a ball and give it to Katie's mom. And then the inside the park home run ball, they were like, well, we got to get the Falby's parents a ball. It got shown into a bunch of buckets with the other balls, so they had to grab and give one. But that is a nice touch that they do whatever they can to make sure that the parents get a ball. And
very nice.
And,
the parents, One
it's
moment
definitely not.
was promoting her sweet baby barbecue sauce, which she had the balls yelling for sign. I didn't
Yeah.
give you a chance to respond like the others on some of your favorite moments in the softball, baseball stuff. Lauren, did you have one?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm a big Kendra Falby guy, so just getting able to see her come out of her slump, and
What a
she's known
catch!
for,
What a catch she made!
yeah, has some great
Unbelievable.
catches, and then come out of her slump and hit that inside the park home run that
Oh for
really
18 or
galvanized the
something, but
team.
she follows up the catch with the inside the park home run.
Inside the park, yeah. So she had been in a slump, her biggest slump of her career, and to hit that ball and get around there, and I mean, pretty much if you know Gator softball, the minute that young lady dove and missed it, that she was off and running. I mean,
Yeah.
the minute it went to the wall, so she was off and running. So
Did
that's
you
probably
see?
my
Do you see the
biggest moment.
collision that Skylar had at second base with the? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh!
and I don't understand that obstruction call. I think they need to go back and really take a look at that because they
You have a
were going
right
to
to go for the
call.
ball. You have a right to go
Yeah,
after the
they were.
ball.
Well, they were going to call Skylar Wallace for
I
obstruction.
know.
They did
I
call her for
know.
obstruction, and I mean that girl was dead to rights. So I don't know what else Skylar Wallace is supposed to
Really?
do if she's standing over top of the bag. But
Yeah.
like I said, somebody else can explain that to me. But yeah, it was a heck of a collision, and luckily both young ladies were able to continue, and it just didn't break the Gators' way today, but
Yeah.
definitely nothing to hang their heads about.
I don't know if you saw it, David, but this woman was named Barbara. What was her last name? Who she outweighed her about 50 pounds. And Skylar
Yeah,
took it head on. I mean, it was a head on head to head collision. I feared they were seriously injured, whatever. So
yeah.
some nice moments we saw there, guys. And now we got the baseball and we got gymnastics, and of course spring football is right around the corner. I mean, excuse me, fall football around the corner, waiting for the season to start. By the way, happy birthday to Al Horford. He's 48, and he's got a chance to get his first NBA ring. Good luck to him on that. So,
I think he's 38. If he's
48,
38,
I'm sorry,
38, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at his jersey, 42, and I'm saying 48. I meant 38. Thank you for correcting me on that one. No, I don't age him that much. Looks really good for a guy who's 38.
Yeah.
By the way, just give me been some good things happening around the league with people getting players and commitments, et cetera, et cetera. It looks like we're on for an interesting summer if nobody gets arrested and jail, whatever. Optimism is rampant a lot of places. You mentioned somebody mentioned Ole Miss earlier. But besides the obvious, and obvious being there would be, and I wouldn't say Alabama necessarily would be the obvious now. What are the one or two teams you're looking at right now that we think expect some big? I mean, I want to say take Georgia out of it. Other than Georgia, who are we expecting on this new format to bust through maybe and have a season and get a chance to maybe grab the brass ring, make that 12-team playoff that we haven't really talked much about? David, you got one?
out of the SEC?
No, I think anybody you want, but let's focus on the SEC. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to be. I hadn't really gotten my
All right,
field,
well, take
my
a
field steel
break.
magazine
All right.
yet to study the rest of them. Yeah.
Take a break and then let Rob go, and then we'll come back to you. You'll have somebody. All right.
They're out.
There it is.
Lindy's.
Okay.
And got another one that just look at there. Football time. Nico Iamaleava. I think Tennessee is a team that's a pretty good deep discount value stock. They got that guy Pierce, the edge rusher. He's going to be one of the top 3 guys drafted. Tennessee, I think is going to be really strong, but again, not because I'm an hour away from them in Oxford. I think Ole Miss, Yancey Porter will be on our show in the morning, Rebel Yell Hotline. He talks about they've got 12 defensive linemen that they can trust now. When you start having those kind of numbers, 12, that's big. Because if you're not 2 or 3 deep at every position in the front 7 on your defense, it's hard to get in the playoff. But Tennessee, Ole Miss, and I think people They're not taking them seriously, but don't discount Missouri. Eli Drinkowitz is as weird as the chemistry professor, man. But they're going to be pretty good. They got Brady Cook's a really good quarterback. They're just out there kind of in the hinterlands, but they're pretty damn good. And going back to Florida, when you got a quarterback room like they've got, that's going to make your team better. I mean, y'all know this. If you don't have a quarterback, it's kind of like that line in the record with Edmund Fitzgerald. At 5 p.m., the main hatchway gave it. At 5 p.m., the cook said, "Fellows, it's been good to know you." At 7 p.m., the main hatchway gave in. "Fellows, it's been good to know you." That was it. I think I doubled it up. But if you don't have the Gators have got something going for them is quarterbacks, and they got the returning leading rusher in the SEC. I don't know what people are way too caught up in this schedule. I do think Florida will beat Miami. I don't think Miami, they've got the name. Y'all know that rivalry better than anybody. In 1983, when Miami leapfrogged from 5th to 1st to win the national championship, I remember the bumper stickers. Florida 27, national champions 13. I think Florida, this is the biggest game for Florida in a long time. And all they hear every day is how bad they are and what they can't do. Don't underestimate them. And I'm not saying that just to say it. I think just look at the talent. It's not as bad as people think it is.
Fair enough. Loren?
Real quick, USC, Notre Dame, and because if USC beats LSU that first game, I think they're in the playoff. I think with the schedule they'll have, they'll be able to navigate it, and I think that LSU game is huge for USC. So if they get LSU, and then I'm kind of like with Rob. I'm as sore as anybody on the Gators, but if the Gators can get to 9 wins, I think they sneak in the playoff.
All right, David. Now you had a minute.
Rob reminded me of that team out in the hinterlands. Yes, Missouri, I think, is a great sleeper team because you see what Drinkwitz has done the last couple of years, and Cook is, he's about as proven a quarterback as there is right now in the SEC, and they had good recruiting classes, and and even though the people who played him know, but most people think, it's still Missouri. How good could they be? They just sort of operate under that stigma. But and it would be funny. We all sort of know about Drinkwitz and how he's sort of the as you said, the goofy professor. But it'd be funny if he did make the playoff and the national media really got a hold of a load of him and his musings during a press conference, because you don't know where he's going to go. That's my simple thing. But we started this whole thing as sort of like a love fest for the Gator non-revenue sports. I got to get in a plug for the track championships for this weekend, and Florida men were going for his 3rd straight NCAA men's championship. Yeah, and one particular guy that I got to get in a plug for, the inimitable Parvez Khan. Nobody.
Oh my God!
Talk about a
badass.
Sort of a rags to riches story. He's from a tiny village in India. Spoke no English. Just sent an Instagram out to the Florida coach with his times, and they said, come to America. And it's like the American dream. He's the SEC champ in the 1500, and he set the school record in the mile and the Indian record in the mile, and and he's just a freshman, but
he's a rocket, man. I don't know where he gets it from, but he just takes off and leads everybody.
Yeah, and I I had could talk to him briefly after the SEC meet and just looked up, and he's you don't want to just say, "I got India," and you think of 1.4 billion people, and you don't think like, you think it used to be a joke. Well, starving food. You send it to someone in India. Well, there's some truth to that. I mean, this kid was raised on a 5-acre farm. His father and mother no education. And his father, let's see, he raises wheat and has two buffalo, and that's how they make their money. He keeps them, and And I guess if they had an NIL deal for them, then maybe they'd give him an oxen or something like that and give it to his family.
Oxen feed.
Yeah. So it's just, and he won't win, but he's a freshman, but he might score a point or two for him, and that would be quite a little story.
Only on this program when David Whitley is here, we talk about the teams to watch for, like California football this fall. Wind up talking about a track team. That's just how it rolls around here. All right. Good stuff as
They
always.
ran a 3:43 1,500 meters. 3:40. That's the equivalent of a 4-minute mile. This kid,
it's just
I'm
an
with you,
unusual
man.
thing to
He's
talk
awesome.
about when you're picking football teams. But that's okay.
He will never play football, I bet.
He weighs about I think $1.25, if that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. He's so small you don't see him go past you. He can really fly, though. You're right about that. Guys,
God, he's
great
good.
job by everybody tonight. Thank you so much for sharing. David, thank you. Been on the longest. Reed David, award-winning columnist of the Gainesville Sun and a lot of other Gannett papers. And, of course, Rob, he's on every day somewhere. I mean, he's got show after show. SEC Sidelines. He's got a pretty good producer there, too, and he has a good show. You want to know about the league? It's SEC Sidelines. And Loren is back, hopefully, as a writer and a broadcaster. We'll see him again on Thursday night.
Start writing, Loren.
Yeah. So,
Right.
Click.
I'm headed now.
All right, guys. Hey, guys, great job. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Good night,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Love it. Good night, everybody.
Hey, all right. So thanks, folks. It's always good to have those guys on. I want to tell you about Renstar Medical Research. I talk about them a lot. I save them to last because they're special. Friends of mine, they do so much in our community. I realize a lot of you may not know a lot about it, so I thought tonight I would tell you about them. Here's some things you should know about them. They have a proven reputation. A proven reputation is providing high quality clinical trials are important. The quality trials, areas like diabetes, hypertension, fibromyalgia, and numerous other therapeutic areas, have compassionate care about the individuals who volunteer for research and treat them with tenderness and respect. We want our own loved ones, and these things are very important because this is how they get some of their stuff to trial safely through these clinical trials, and it's really helpful in finding research for us. And FDA regulated clinical research studies are regulated by the FDA, safely and closely monitored by independent review board as well. Renstar Medical Research, a superior medical research facility. All right, folks, thanks to our guest tonight. It was great to have David Whitley and to have Rob Browne and Loren Meadows on tonight. And shout out to Franz Beard. Get well soon. We miss your writing. And we're back tomorrow night. We'll be talking to Chris Doring. Matter of fact, tomorrow morning I'll be on with Chris Doring on the Sirius Radio and talking to him about some football things on his program. So have a good night, folks. And until then, I'm Buddy Martin, and God bless you all.